Right, here's the deal. Osama was already dead for a decade. And they've been waiting for the right moment to play this card, like I said. So they brought him out now to distract people from the fact that the economy isn't improving. But corporations and banks, they're doing fine because they use those loans from Bush's $700 million tax bailout package that Obama supported and now claims as his own for some stupid reason to meet their bottom lines, pay off the government to get out from under the regulations so that they can return to business as usual at half capacity in terms of labor domestically, while expanding abroad to make more money than ever before. Not to mention the fact that investors have jacked up oil trading through the roof to make more money on their investment. Though it has nothing to do with short supply or demand. They just want more money, and us idiots are paying for it. We're buying this gas at an extremely high rate without a fuss, so I guess I can't get pissed too much, especially since I'm driving V12. Then you have the toxic waste that has reached America. The toxic waste from Japan has reached America. There are cows, there are crops, there's plants as far as Spokane, Washington, testing positive for traces of radiation that no one talks about. They say it's a small amount that's harmless, but yeah, that's what they said in Chernobyl, and we saw how that turned out. Then you got the oil spill in the Gulf that has ruined the ecosystem and is still killing people as we speak. These two idiotic wars that are still going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. All Obama did was he took the media focus off of Iraq and put it on Afghanistan, where we're wasting tons of money and resources fighting a tactic. We've declared war on a goddamn tactic. Terrorism is not a target, it's a tactic of war. It's stupid. It's like declaring a war on Scud missiles. It's idiotic. And he took the focus off of Iraq. And all he did in Iraq was he pulled out 70,000 troops. Then he brought in 100,000 mercenaries. They're still at war in Iraq. The people are protesting about the rampant corruption, the lack of basic services since America destroyed the country's infrastructure, and the impressively high food costs, which is something that people all over the Middle East and even some parts of Europe are complaining about. That's what spawned those protests. And of course, as I mentioned, the time and money wasted in Afghanistan. I'm sure the real perpetrators of 9/11, the Saudi government, or one of the perpetrators, I should say, they love all of this, especially now that the U.S. international pod NATO is attacking that loading net Gaddafi, and the Saudis get to make up the slack of output to the Eurozone that Libya usually provides. And then companies like Lockheed Martin, and they're loving this too. This fray caused by the powers that be, as well as the banks who were bailed out, they benefit from this greatly. Getting to make weapons and finance the projects that Lockheed wants to do, and they're making money hand over fist. And they're doing it at the expense of the economy. Obama's a godsend to big corporations, banks, weapons dealers, the rich elite. Trust and believe that. But of course, nigwads and die-hard libtards, they're going to still love him, as they did the slave master or the feudal lords of Europe. Like they did when Clinton was president, and the prison population doubled on his watch. It's doubled under Obama too. It's 2,600,000, some crazy number like that. I find it odd that electronics are so cheap in this market, even with other petrol products at an all-time high. Networking devices are especially cheap. Keeping tabs on us for safety, right? Yeah, sure. But despite all of this, like I said, people support him blindly, especially since he's killed America's Goldstein, Osama, for the 9th time, by the way. Yeah, you can look that shit up yourselves. And of course, immediately after, they dumped his body in the ocean 1,000 miles away, 1,000 miles south from where he was allegedly killed a couple days ago. Yes, they love him now. Despite him continuing Bush's policies, not allowing the tax breaks for the rich to end, despite trying to gut and cut social services such as Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid, things in which he talked about increasing funding for at the height of the recession and during his campaign. And he wants to do this instead of increasing taxes on corporations who are raking in record profits due to the bailouts that he's given them. Try to gain bipartisan support from the GOP. And, the thing is, he always, his supporters, I should say, always whine and say, oh, it's the GOP blocking his support. The GOP is doing this. But here's the deal. He's trying to gain favor because his retarded ass maneuvers have boxed him into a corner. He thinks by pulling the Osama card, it'll open up enough wiggle room for his softer policies like immigration reform. But like everything else he's accomplished, it'll be more toothless legislation that'll pretty much help nothing. People, they want to ignore this though. They just want to focus. Why don't you focus on the good? We're in the middle of a fucking recession. The economy's gloomy, and things aren't looking good. Hell, the unemployment's gone up, not down. And the thing is, a lot of the stuff that he claims the GOP's blocking and stuff, he could stop these things and put in things into action by executive order. Things like confirming habeas rights for prisoners, canceling that idiotic mandate from his healthcare bill, decertifying XE Global, aka Blackwater, closing their bases, raising interest rates, as it didn't help during the dot-com burst, and it damn sure ain't working now, Jack and Danny's. And the thing is, this Nicola Todd, he needs to fulfill his campaign promises on ending NAFTA and the GATT. He needs to do that instead of expanding them. Get rid of the Monsanto execs from the USDA and the Department of Agriculture, and drop them Goldman Sachs execs from the Department of Treasury. He needs to do those things. Revamp the HEMP, the Housing Act. Revamp that so it's actually effective, and then increase funding on programs cut by that idiot Bush. He has the power to do all those things, but he won't, because he's a corporate shill. He's the same douche who supported the $1 billion tax giveaway, and then used the media to defer attention from this fact while lying about how he didn't have the math to make such a program work. And he did this behind the back of his party, no less. Yeah, but people conveniently forget that. One of his executive orders, though, was imposing a 2-year waiting period for lobbyists entering his administration. But the reality is that I think well over 40 ex-lobbyists have populated the top jobs in the Obama regime. He also promised to wait before signing bills passed by Congress during his when Congress was controlled by the Dems. He promised to wait before signing bills so it could be reviewed by the public. But since that Jack and Danny's been sworn in, bills have been rushed through his Democratic Congress and voted on before anyone had an opportunity to read them. This is his Democratic-controlled Congress. They were given less than an hour to read his revisions of the corporate handjob, the stimulus bill. I remember the jackass saying that the stimulus bill was so urgent that it had to be passed before Congress could read it. I was like, what the fuck? But what obsessed me the most is that those morons actually just went along with it. They were like, fuck it, alright. They read it right through. You know? This is the anti-war candidate, right? Yeah, but let's be real. The liar has extended the war and increased the number of troops involved, also while expanding the defense budget. He promised to abolish the Patriot Act, but no. And he did. He did abolish it for a little bit. Then he reinstated it and continued the Bush policy. He's continued arresting any citizen labeled an enemy combatant, aka people that call his bullshit out, and the indefinite detention of anyone without any evidence, just locking them up. Random Canadians and shit. And not all of them were fucking Arabs. They just show that on the news. They're locking up people that basically call them on their shit and then they label them terrorists. I don't give a flying fuck about Mohammedanism. It's a stupid. All Mohammedanism, all Islam is Arab supremacy. That's all that shit is. I don't give a crap about their religion or any other, for that matter. But this is not about Mohammedanism. It's not about terrorism. It's not. It's about money. It's about corporate interests, and he's basically a pawn, the golem for these corporations, acting out their wishes. But you know. Corporations have always run America. They used to call them trusts back in the old days, back in the 19th century. It was the same BS. They were able to cut those charters and get rid of them, but 14th Amendment killed that. You know, they killed that. The fact is, he's basically just another Republican. He makes Ronald the retard Reagan look like Jimmy Carter at a Baptist church full of nignogs eating baked macaroni and government cheese. You know, on Martin Luther King Day wearing a kente cloth tie, taking a photo with Harry Belafonte. I mean, what the hell? Until you Ron Paul douchebags, wake the fuck up, jackass. You know, here's the deal. Here's a reality check. You run around here claiming Obama to be a socialist because of the watered down welfare policies he proposes that will never see the light of day because he's full of shit. But I don't think you fucking morons know what socialism is. Nor have you ever read the Constitution. You see, here's the deal. I have a copy of the Constitution. Not only that, but I've read the Federalist Papers. You know, here's the deal. You fucking idiots have not either read it or you just glossed it and ignore shit you don't like. What you need to do is read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, then proceed to shut the fuck up. Because it talks about the welfare and how we should have this and that. That's what FDR's second package was going to be before he died. And it's constitutional, so shut the fuck up. You know what the fuck you're talking about. And another thing on Ron the retard Paul, you know, is when Clinton got in office, you know, all his little flowery ideas, it never came to fruition because he got a good talking to by Greenspan and his pals on how things would run. You know, he'd ruin the economy if he tried these things. There's a video of him explaining this, and the fact that he'd probably if he put these things in action, they'd probably get him killed. They put him aside and say, you need to slow the fuck down or you're gonna get screwed up. And what he did was he tried to dance around these things to get stuff passed. And all that happened was he got his dirty laundry aired out. And then he used that pharmaceutical factory in Sudan to take the focus away from it while he played damage control domestically. Which obviously didn't work. And he probably had something to do with the bombings in Tanzania and the World Trade Center parking lot. But that's speculation. I don't want to go that far. Either way, he didn't get to do exactly what he wanted. And let's see how far Ron gets to the White House. And by some slim chance, if he got in, let's see how close he gets to ending the Fed before his life ends. I mean, what's his alternative, really? Using some laissez-faire market? That's idiotic. What do you think caused the Panic of 1907, man? That's not gonna work. Come on. Why do you think they founded that shit, you know? That's why they created the Federal Bank after, what's his name, got rid of the Central Bank, or the Second Bank back in like 1836. Again, I forget the date. You know? The reality is, it needs to be reformed, not abolished. Get rid of the bipolar bankers that run to the free market in times of prosperity, and rush to stimulate the economy with rate cuts when the bubble bursts, instead of reforming that system. We need to reform it instead of what we've been doing, because it doesn't work. It didn't work during the dot-com bust. It didn't work in the 80s because of the mortgage bust, and it ain't working now. And then instead of talking about how NAFTA undermines workers, Ron the fucktard Paul talks about it being some sinister plot of America, Canada, and Mexico, and some secret route they're building. I-35 is not a fucking secret. I've taken that route before. It's not a secret. It's been there for ages. And they're building another road with a bunch of lanes in spots around Texas to Mexico, because a lot of people come through the border doing business, tourism, and all that other crap, and traffic is atrocious. So that's what they're doing. So what? Who cares? In all honesty, if Canada and Mexico had open borders like the EU, I wouldn't really have a problem with that. America would be more likely to keep its currency along with an maritime currency. But as long as Mexico's full of gun-toting drug lord nitwits, you morons aren't going to have to worry about this happening. But if it had a stable economy and they opened up all the borders, who cares? Because then people could go down there and expand their markets. They could come here and expand their markets. The illegals wouldn't have to do all the crap they're doing. We'd have to pay those assholes equal rates, so there'd be no incentive to hire them, and everything would be fine, and we could all go to Canada and fuck hot white bitches. So I fail to see the problem, and they're hot Asian bitches up to too. But I'm in Seattle, so Seattle's basically Canada, so who cares? I don't have to worry about any of that shit. But I mean, the fact is that it wouldn't be that big of a deal. It's not going to lead to microchips in your fucking finger. They're already doing stuff. They don't need to do that because they can just get your DNA and look at that and track you by that because it's in a database. Now, as crazy as that sounds, so that technology is far more advanced than the stupid theory proposed at the time. Now, the fact is, Ron Paul is a retard. That's all I got to say. There's not going to be an Amero or a North American Union or whatever the hell they call it. And honestly, if that clown was elected, my money would be on him being just another Bush, just like Obama, the puppet dog with Soros, and the multinationals. There'd be absolutely no goddamn difference. So I mean, you can say what you want, you can be all delusional. Fact is, Obama's full of crap. He's the one who started a lot of this crap when he got elected, and he's basically just perpetrating more BS, and then using distractions to cover it up, just like Bush. He's a Republican. That's all he is. And he was backed and touted as a Democrat so that you morons would elect him. And you took the bait, and now you're mad. That's all it is. Take your medicine, bitch.